What if I told you that a lot of stories are kind of urban legends from the old days? Anthony Bourdain's Hungry Ghosts is one of those stories, actually. If you don't mind my Willie Nelson pacing here, I'm going to tell you about it. The origins of the book Hungry Ghosts go back probably to the Edo period of Japan. A game called Hyaku Monogatari Kaidenkai, which literally means a gathering of 100 spiritual tales. Ghost stories is essentially what it is. It was a parlor game that was kind of Buddhist inspired. Basically, as night fell, they would prepare 100 endon or candles in a series of 3 rooms. They would do the 100 candles in the third room and then position a single mirror on the surface of a small table. When the sky is at its darkest, the guests gather into the first of the 3 rooms, taking turns, telling tales of ghoulish encounters and reciting folkloric tales passed on by the villagers who have claimed to experience supernatural encounters. Now, basically these tales became known as the kaidan. At the end of each kaidan, the storyteller would enter the third room, extinguished a candle, looked in a mirror, made their way back to the first room. Basically, with each passing tale, the room grew darker and darker. Basically, if you light the candle, supposedly, it would create an evocation of spirits that, where the spirits would come in and you would get various yasha, various oni, all yokai. Of course, no one was brave enough to hang around after the 99th tale because they were afraid that the spirits would be invoked with this telling of the 100 tales. So we start off with this story by Anthony Bourdain. 2 of the stories, which the origin story, the Kaidan, is drawn by Alberto Ponticelli, and the next tale, the Starving Skeleton, also drawn by Ponticelli, and Vanessa Del Rey draws the Pirates. This is a book drawn by, the tale is drawn up by Anthony Bourdain and Joel Rose for Dark Horse Comics. This is going to be a quarterly series, 1 of 4. Bourdain is no stranger to writing. In fact, he's got 2 pretty successful books. Of course, the most notorious, famous one, Kitchen Confidential, which spawned the series, and then No Reservations, and his current series, Parts Unknown. Even if you're not a fan of Bourdain's politics, Bourdain's got some interesting stories to tell. Basically, Kaidan sets the scene where this Russian oligarch on a seaside resort in Montauk, New York, invites his guests in and tells them, here's the rules of the game, and tells them of the origins of the 100 tales. This book starts off with 2 tales. Of course, The Starving Skeleton, which tells of a man that refuses to feed a beggar. This beggar ends up becoming a hungry yasha, a demon, a starving skeleton. The other one is called The Pirates. Of the pirates that take on this wench, and they do plan to gang rape her, but things don't go exactly as they planned it. This book, at its core, is a horror book. It's not for the faint of heart. Basically, it tells you, from the perspective of a group of chefs, they try to outscare each other with the theme of food and fear. Basically, each chef goes into the 3 rooms. They tell the story in the dinner room, which is the first room, past the second room, where supposedly the demons will inhabit, and then go to the third room, blow out a candle, look in the mirror, make sure they've not been possessed. That's the entire origin of Hungry Ghosts. It's basically a modern take on the on the 100 Candles game. And if you've heard of these concepts, the yokai, the oni, the yasha, you've heard of the yokai watch, onimusha, inuyasha, which basically means inuyasha is dog demon, yokai is ghost, and oni is ogre, more or less. But yes, this is a bit of a different take on the Hyaku Monogatari Kaidenkai. It's one of those different slants that Tony Bourdain has on his stories. I do recommend you at least check out the first book. It does sell on Comixology and in your other stores for $1.99. A pretty good bargain. I did pick up book 2 and I have book 3 and book 4 on pre-order. They're going to go for $3.99, but it's a pretty good introductory from Dark Horse, who doesn't need all the support it can get right now because, let's be honest, I think by next year we're going to be hearing about them struggling not at quite the rate IDW is struggling, but Dark Horse needs some love, as do all of the independent companies these days. However, this story, I do recommend it, even if you're not a fan of Anthony Bourdain, the person, or you're not a fan of his politics, or you're not a fan of his show. He and Joel Rose do draw up a pretty good horror tale. Even if horror is not your thing, it's a bit of a slant on it. Anyhow, all the links below. I do tell you, if you want to support, go ahead. Any of these books I do recommend you pick up. I am on Twitter at Danger Reporter. The link will be below as well. If you want to support on Patreon, you can as well. Don't have to. It'd be nice, though. And most definitely, catch us, myself and David, at rouletteproductions.com, where we write news stories. We try to at least get 1 or 2 per week. My last story was about the McLean's article. Definitely check it out. I will get some more stories up. I don't have a set plan. Of course, here's the thanks. I do thank everyone for watching. I do thank everyone for listening. I will have a new video up soon. I'm just trying to catch up with everything. And if my pacing is off, yes, I'm talking to you, Evan. I'll get better at this. Don't worry. Everyone, take care.